my friend. Today we'll be doing something very, very fun. And guess what? I will be showing you how to make birthday cake from scratch and how to decorate it by yourself. A round of applause! This particular cake recipe has been my favorite cake recipe. In fact, it is the first cake recipe that I learned when I was younger. So it is like a thing of joy and love for me to be sharing this with you today, my friends. So let's start. Because we have so much to do, I don't want to waste your time at all. Please hit the subscribe button if you've not subscribed yet. Like this video if you consider it useful, and of course you are going to consider it useful. So just give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to drop your comment in the comment section because I always blush when I see your comment. And without so much being said, let's start. So before we proceed, let's go through the ingredients real quick, shall we? We'll be making use of this our whisk attachment because I'll be using my standing mixer today. But if you don't have a standing mixer, you don't have to worry because I'm your friend and I will always come through. I will always tell you what you can use when you don't have something to use. So if you don't have a standing mixer, you can just make use of your hand whisk and a bowl and use your hand to whisk and mix your ingredients till it is fluffy. It's going to be the perfect arm exercise for you for the day. So a win is a win. You don't have a hand mixer, don't think too much, just use your hands and get muscles. So shall we? Let's get into the business of the day. I'm going to be fixing my whisk attachment into my standing mixer. Instead of butter, I'm using margarine because margarine is the low budget form of butter. So I'll be going in with my margarine first and I'll just beat that for about 2 minutes before I go in with my sugar. That way the margarine tends to be more creamy before I add in my sugar. That way my cake is going to be very, very, very fluffy. After 2 minutes of mixing, now let's add in our sugar. I'm going to be using the white granulated sugar for this my recipe today, and that's just the standard cake. You don't need too much. All you need is just this white granulated sugar, the regular white sugar we use, and you are good to go. So I'm going to be adding in my sugar right now into my butter mixture. I'll be mixing on the highest speed because I want to rush with what I am doing, but you can choose to use whichever speed you like. But the most important thing is that your butter and your sugar mixture should look very creamy before you go in with any other ingredient. So let's just mix our butter and sugar before we proceed. Then you follow the process of this video, every single thing I'm going to be doing in this video. But trust me, if you follow this recipe step by step, I guarantee you a perfect, fluffy, creamy, very soft texture cake. It's been 10 minutes of mixing on the highest speed, and look at how creamy our margarine and sugar mixture look like. Now we'll proceed to add in our eggs, and I'll be using 8 eggs for this recipe, but we'll be doing it one at a time. We'll be doing this on the lowest speed because I don't want egg spillage. I don't want egg to splash on me if I do it on the highest speed. So we'll be making use of the lowest speed. Remember, one at a time. Up. Once the first one mix, we proceed to add in the second egg, and once that one too incorporates into the butter and sugar mixture, we will add in the third one. That's how we are going to do it till we exhaust the 8 eggs. And now that we've incorporated all our eggs, the next thing we want to do is go in with our flavoring. I'm going to be using mixed zest extract and butterscotch extract. But note this particular cake recipe, you can use any kind of flavoring you love. You can use any kind of flavoring that is available. So this cake recipe is just like a base kind of cake. Like it's just like a plain cake that you can incorporate any flavor you like into it. So it is the flavor of the cake that you incorporate into it that will determine the kind of cake it is. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like it is a plain cake. When you now incorporate flavor into it, it will now determine the kind of cake it's going to be. Let's use this as an example. If I add in this mixed zest flavoring and this butterscotch flavoring, automatically it is a butterscotch flavor cake. So if you have vanilla extract and you add in vanilla extract into this cake base, it's going to be a vanilla flavor cake. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So that is how this cake is. This cake is like a universal kind of cake. It's like a multi-purpose cake. The same way we have multi-purpose sauce to eat yam, rice, okra soup, eba, any kind of thing. It's the same way this cake is. You really want to save this video or download it because you don't want to miss it out. Because you don't even have to download it because it will always be here, so you can always come back and watch. But let's not diversify. Let's add in our flavoring into the cake and proceed to what next we have to do real quick. Also, before we proceed, I want to clarify this. I'm using two flavoring, but it's not necessary you use two flavoring. I just love mixing flavors in my plain cake so that if the cake flavor can be a little bit intense. But if you have one flavoring or you just like only one flavor, maybe one flavoring is your most favorite kind of flavoring, you don't have to mix it. You can just stick to that one flavoring. But because I have so much flavoring at home and I want to utilize them, so I picked my butterscotch flavoring and my mixed zest flavoring. But if you have just one flavoring, stick to it and use it. So as mean I have this mixed zest flavoring alone at home, I'm just going to stick to it and just put it in my cake base and I'm good to go. If I have butterscotch alone at home, I'll stick to my butterscotch and use it. Or maybe if it is only butterscotch I like, I'll stick to it and use it. But since I have two, why not? If you have two, will you still stick to one? Who does not like good thing? So let's just, for this particular recipe, we'll be making use of one teaspoon. So if it was only one flavoring I'm going to be using, I will just measure a teaspoon alone. But because I'm using two, I will be measuring both into one teaspoon. Do you understand? Because I'm using both, I'll be measuring both of them into one teaspoon. But if this is confusing you, you can just use half teaspoon of this and half teaspoon of this. Half teaspoon plus half teaspoon makes 1 teaspoon. So let's just do it. Now incorporate this into your cake batter. Let's incorporate the flour into the cake mixture. So we'll be pouring in the flour bit by bit into it on the lowest heat because I don't want spillage. You know, when we are baking, one of the most essential things to do is ensure that all your environment is clean. You don't want to bake and you should be looking like a masquerade, isn't it? So now we'll be pouring it into the butter, sugar and flavor mixture very, very slowly till we've exhausted all the flour. I'm going to be using all-purpose flour for this cake recipe. You don't need any special type of flour. You don't have to. If you have cake flour, you can use cake flour. But if you don't, it is not really necessary for this particular cake recipe. All-purpose flour works just perfectly. So shall we? Lastly, we'll be going in with 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I'll just be putting this into my mixture and that is all for the cake batter before we proceed to syrup our cake pan on lowest speed as usual. Now we'll be syruping our pan with some margarine. I'll be making use of a brush to brush up the pan with some margarine, and clearly on the video I am focusing on the edges first because that is the most important part of the pan. That is the place that makes the cake form. That is the place that ensures that the cake does not stick. Like once the edge sticks to the cake, to the pan, once the edge sticks to the pan, it deforms. So you really want to focus on the edge of your pan so that it does not stick by the side, because once the side breaks, it deforms and you don't want that. So just brush it up, brush the edges well, and brush other sides of the pan also. And for extra sealing and ensuring that it does not really stick, we'll be dusting it with some flour, just like the way I am doing it in this video. And that is honestly how to syrup your baking pan properly. And now we are good to go. You can now add in your cake batter into this, and I promise you, if you do it just the way I did it here, it will not stick to your pan after baking. And right now, look at how lush our cake batter is looking. Now it is ready to be poured into the baking pan. So I'll just give that a real quick mix with my hands, and I'll just transfer it into my baking pan just like the way I am doing it in this video. Trust me, I am scraping every single batter in my mixing bowl because I can't even waste ingredient or cake batter with the price of ingredients right now. So I'll just be scoping that into my baking pan, and I'll proceed to bake this on medium heat for about 45 minutes to 50 minutes. And once our cake is baked, allow it to cool completely before you decorate. Now let's decorate our cake. We'll be needing these ingredients to decorate our cake, and the decoration we're going to be doing today is the most simplest cake decoration ever, the most basic and one of the most universal cake decoration ever. It is called butter icing, and for butter icing we'll be needing just icing sugar and butter. Those are the two ingredients that we'll be needing for this decoration, but there are other things that we will add to the cake to beautify the cake, so let's just go through them real quick. This is our naked cake. Of course, this is the main thing we are going to be using. This is what we are decorating. Then this is our margarine or butter. Then we'll be using this gold ball to enhance the beauty of what we are decorating. We'll also be using artificial flowers to enhance the beauty. We'll be using some sprinkles and of course our icing sugar. We'll also be using 2 piping bags, 1 palette knife and 1 cake comb, and a turntable for easy rotation of our cake while decorating. But before we go into the cake decoration, there's a secret I want to share with you, my friends, and I don't want to shout, so come closer, come closer, come closer. Whenever you are decorating any cake, when you know that you are going to cover the cake and maybe you are not going to finish eating the cake that same day or the next day, or maybe you bake the cake today and you are going to cover it tomorrow, you are going to decorate it tomorrow. Before you decorate that cake, I want you to always soak your cake in cake softener. I always call it sugar syrup. It's the combination of sugar and water. So before you decorate your cake with whatever you are using, whether it's butter icing or maybe fondant or whatsoever, you need to soak your cake in some sugar syrup. The sugar syrup helps the cake remain moist for a very long time, for a longer period of time, especially when you are just storing this on a shelf or pantry and not storing it in your fridge. You need that sugar syrup so that when you cut into your cake remain moist, it does not dry up, and it tastes so succulent in the mouth even after days. Let's make our sugar syrup before we proceed into the cake decoration very fast. Our sugar syrup recipe is very simple: equal amount of sugar and equal amount of water. So if we are using a cup of sugar, we'll be using a cup of water. If we are using half cup of sugar, we'll be using what? Half cup of water. But for today, I'm just going to be making sugar syrup for only this cake. You can make your sugar syrup in bulk if you know you are going to be making cake very frequently and store that in your fridge or pantry, it does not get spoiled easily. But for today, I will be making sugar syrup for just this cake, and I'll be using 1/3 cup of sugar and 1/3 cup of butter. So let's just go into it so that we can see the illustration real quick for better understanding. Now that we've made our sugar syrup, let's begin to trim our cake. Once we trim our cake, we move into the mixing of the butter icing and we decorate straight up. So I'll be making use of a bread knife. This is what a bread knife looks like. This bread knife is good for trimming of cakes and bread and whatsoever. So I love using bread knife to trim my cake. I'm trimming the cake because I want it to be leveled when I'm decorating. I don't want a place to be higher than the other place. So I have to make sure I trim the cake for it to be leveled. And I'll be dividing my cake into two because it's kind of a little bit tall. I will be putting butter icing in the middle of the cake. So I will divide it into two, put butter icing in the middle of it, then place the second one that I divided. But before we even do that, let's ensure that our cake is leveled. So now that we've syruped our cake, I'm just going to set this aside and I'll move into the mixing of the butter icing. But I want to say something. Whenever you trim your cakes, the piece of the ones you cut out from the main cake, I will advise that you don't throw it away because it might be needed later when you want to level up your cake. So right now I'm going to just keep this somewhere. I know you are in a haste to taste your cake and eat it, but the cake is yours, so you don't have to rush. So I'll just keep this somewhere. Once we level it, I will know if I'll be needing these pieces or not. So let's just keep this here, set the cake aside while I mix my butter icing. I'll be making use of my whisk attachment to mix my butter and icing sugar. So I'll first go in with my butter as usual. I will mix that till it's a little bit creamy before I go in with my icing sugar. Now that we've mixed our butter, let's add in our icing sugar. Our butter has been creaming for about just 1 minute or just 2 minutes. So we'll go in with our icing sugar right now. I'll be going in with the icing sugar bit by bit helps. I'll be going in with it bit by bit. Now to combine and just finalize the butter icing, I'll be going in with a little water. Some people love to add liquid milk in replacement of water, but I'm not here for all those drama now, and I don't even have liquid milk right now, so I'll substitute for water. So you can choose to use water or liquid milk, whichever one that you have and whichever one that you love works. It works perfectly. So I'll be using 1/4 cups of water, but note this, depending on weather, the amount of water that you add to your butter icing varies. So I'll be going in with the water gradually. I will not just pour all the water at once. They don't do baking like that, especially when you are trying to combine a mixture or a dough or whatsoever. When you are baking, you don't just add all the wet ingredients at once. So you will go in with it gradually. When it is combined, if you have not exhausted all the liquid, just set it aside. You don't need it anymore. But if necessary, you can add everything. But remember, do it bit by bit. So let's just add a little drop, mix it, add a little drop, mix it, and I will let you know where we stop or if we find exhausted all the water. And now our butter icing is ready, and this was the water left. Our butter icing is just perfect. Look at it. Not too thick, not too light, just perfect. So if you follow this recipe back to back, if you follow it according to how I have shown in this video, I guarantee you perfect butter icing, because this recipe has been something I have been using for years. I'm not exaggerating, for about 4 years now. This has been my butter icing recipe. I have perfected this recipe to the extent that I don't have to measure my ingredients. I can eyeball the ingredient and I will get what I want. So if you follow this recipe back to back, I can guarantee you a perfect butter icing. And hold on, I forgot to say this. If you try out any of my recipes, or if you try out this recipe, please send me feedback on Instagram. I am Chef Temmie. My special trick is using my piping bag to spread my icing sugar instead of using my palette knife to spread my icing sugar. So this is how it is done. Just use your spatula to scoop in the icing sugar into the piping bag, just like this, very neatly. Just like this. Now in the middle of one of the cake, I'll be spreading the butter icing with the piping bag before I place the other cake on it. So it's very easy. Just start from the middle. Your hand is stagnant. Do you understand? Your hand is going to be stagnant while your other hand is going to be rolling the turntable. One hand is stagnant while the second hand is going to be doing the job with the turntable. So you don't have to turn, you don't have to twist your hand. Let the turntable do its job and just decorate. Now we'll be making use of our palette knife to spread this for leveling purpose. So just like this. Place your hand gently. You don't want to over press, you don't want your cake to scatter. Gently, just gently. I'm not adding a lot of muscles to what I am doing. I'm just making sure my hand is gripping the handle of my palette knife while I use my turntable to control. Now that we've leveled our cake, let's crumb coat the cake. That way the main icing sugar will stay on the cake permanently, because the cake body is very dry right now, so we need something that is a little bit wet that will make the rest of the icing sugar stick on the body of the cake. That's what they call crumb coating. You need to crumb coat your cake before you go in with the main cake decoration. So for our crumb coating, this is my trick. I will use my piping bag and icing sugar to seal up this middle first. See this middle that has a little bit of space from the other. I'm going to use my piping bag and icing sugar to seal it up first. Now that we've sealed it up, let's spread it with our palette knife. You can see how we've joined the first cake to the second cake. Very neat, very easy, super fast, and is something you should be able to do by yourself after you watch this video, right? Or do you have any question? Drop it in the comment. I'll be in the comment section to read your questions. So let's proceed. For the crumb coating, I just took a scoop of my icing sugar. I'll be placing it on this plate. So all the icing sugar I'll be working with will be from this little portion that I scoped out. I don't want to touch these ones that are here, so that my cake crumbs will not penetrate into this one and spoil my icing sugar decoration. So this little one that we've scoped out, that is what we'll be using for our crumb coating. Let's start from the side. Now that we've concocted our cake, let's decorate. The same technique we use when we're trying to mesh the cake, the way we piped on the cake and smoothing it, that's the same thing we're going to be using now. And as easy as that, we are getting the job done very fast. Now that we've concocted our cake, let's decorate. The same technique we use when we're trying to mesh the cake, the way we piped on the cake and smoothing it, that's the same thing we're going to be using now. And as easy as that, we are getting the job done very fast. Now we've given our cake the first coating. If you want a more finer cake decoration or a more thicker icing sugar, or you don't even want to see any kind of cake crumbs on your cake, the trick is putting your cake inside the fridge, allow it to get cold, then recover again with another layer of butter icing. That way the cake icing will be thicker. You will not see any trace of cake crumbs in it, and it's going to be very, very fine and neat. But now I am okay with this layer. I am okay with it. I don't want to do too much. The only thing I'm going to be doing now is adding my cake toppers and my flour, and I'm good to go. Let's put in our cake topper first. So I just want to check the most neatest place in this cake, and I'll just be inserting my cake topper in there. I think, where should we put our topper? Should it be by the side or on the middle? Let's do side. Now I'll be inserting the artificial flowers. I think I'm going to put the flowers by the side here, just to fill up this space. Cake decoration does not follow a pattern. All you need is your creativity, one or two thinking and reasoning here and there, and you are going to get the design you love and a beautiful style. So you just need to know about beautifying things, use a little bit of reasoning and thinking, and you will get what you want. So every design you do is a style. Every single design you do is a style. Even if it is a mistake, nobody will know. Even if you made a mistake, nobody will know, because it's a style. But make sure when you are doing your style, it should be as neat as possible. My friends, now that you've been able to decorate and bake a cake by yourself, I hope you'll be subscribing. Hit the subscribe button below this video, the notification bell right beside the subscribe button, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Please, if you'll be recreating this recipe, I would love to see your feedback on all social media platforms. I am Chef Temmie on all social media platforms. So if you'll be recreating this recipe, please send them to me on Instagram. You can send them to me on TikTok. You can send them to me on Twitter. You can send them to me on Facebook. I would love to see your recreations. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Oh, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Oh, see you in my next one. Bye. I love you.